Hello, good afternoon. I am Josep Maria Marimon from IFI Café. I have been researching for a couple of months about the use of artificial intelligence in audiophilia. I was wondering how these artificial intelligences can help me in my day-to-day in the research process, in search of new equipment, ways to repair them, new restoration techniques, right? And, well, I have come to the conclusion that it really is a very good working tool. We are used to seeing news that GPT chat and other artificial intelligences are starting to be used in the workplace, but it is not so normal to see how these artificial intelligences are starting to be used in our daily life, in our everyday life. So during these months, I have been testing different types of intelligences and finding a series of really interesting possibilities that I would like to share with you. The best way to share these technological things, I'm always in favor of doing them in practice, okay? Not so much talk, although I'll talk quite a bit, but I'd like to show you specific tools that you can start using this very afternoon. So, let's get started. Normally, when we do research, when we're looking for information about a piece of equipment, what do? We start the internet from Google, and we do the straightforward bare-bones search. We search, for example, if we want the sensitivity of a JBL type of speaker, what do? JBL type speakers, JBL L100, to select some very well-known ones, we go to Google and search for JBL L100, and we do this search, and the result that we get are results, as you can see, commercial, because they are the ones that are paying money to appear in the first places. Stores, distributors, the manufacturer itself. And we can find videos of our friends, and we can get to that information more or less quickly. So I looked at how these intelligences could make it easier for us to get to this information much faster. What I've done is, I've gone deep with ChatGPT, which is the language technology, the LLM from OpenAI, which is the big company that's now partnered with Microsoft. And any of us can use ChatGPT. In fact, it has a free version that we can all use. However, to get to have more functionality and a lot more power, we need to upgrade to ChatGPT Advanced. And that's what I did. In order to train the artificial intelligence to adapt to my needs, we have to pay for it, we have to register and start it. And this is what I did. I logged into ChatGPT and I created an assistant that I call it Audiophile Expert. As you can see here, Audiophile Expert, created by me. And it's an advisor. I've subtitled it as IFI Vintage or Modern Personal Advisor. And it's like an advisor that I've trained with knowledge links so that he can give more fine-tuned answers around the hi-fi world.
Experto audiófilo, como podéis ver aquí, experto audiófilo, creado por mí, y es un asesor, lo he subtitulado como asesor personal IFI Vintage o moderno, ¿vale? Y es como un asesor que he entrenado con conocimientos, enlaces, para que pueda dar respuestas más afinadas en torno a el mundo de alta fidelidad, ¿vale?
Of course, we'll be able to ask him questions that go beyond that, but he's specially trained to be more scientific and more specific on these topics. And, for example, if I want to ask it for information about the JBL L100, as we've asked Google before, and it's given us generic information, here I have this quick shortcut, which is, I want detailed information on a piece of equipment. When I ask it this, the wizard says, in order to provide you with detailed information about an audio equipment, I'll need you to specify what equipment you're talking about. It's totally logical. And I'll say, well, I want you to tell me about JBL L100. The JBL L100 is an iconic loudspeaker that marked an era in the history of audiophile and home speaker design. Originally released in the 1970s, the L100 was introduced as a consumer version of the professional studio loudspeaker, the 4310. It quickly became a best-selling JBL loudspeaker of the era. It follows system type, three-way speaker, drivers, 40 to 20 kilohertz frequency response, impedance, 91 dB sensitivity, recommended power, And here they explain that in 2018, JBL released a modern version that has these features and, well, for me, for example, I want you to be more succinct, and then I'll tell you. Please be more succinct and direct. Give me the data always more quickly. In other words, I don't lag when I'm looking for information to give me all the context, okay? Or maybe I am interested and then I will ask you, right? What do you say? Well, here. Got it. Here's the straightforward information on the JBL L100. Launched in 1970. Three-way, drivers, frequency response, impedance, sensitivity. So now you have not explained all the contextual information, but you have already told me the direct information about the JBL L100, okay? Now I could tell you about anything else, right? I mean, about an amplifier or about, I don't know. We could ask you something much more specific to know the limits, right? For example, can you tell me the complexity of a capsule? Let's see. What does it say? These intelligences are not totally infallible either, okay? Because I have trained it, but I have not put all the human knowledge inside the audio. This is a learning process that I will be adding more knowledge. He tells me, to give you information on capsule complexity, you'll need to know the specific make and model of the capsule you're interested in. Well, that's good, isn't it? I'm going to ask, for example, about the Sumiko Blue Point. Let's see, what do you tell me? The Sumiko Blue Point capsule is a moving coil type pickup capsule known for its excellent performance and sound quality. However, to provide you with the specific details such as complexity, it's important to note that there are several versions of the Sumiko, okay? Number 2, the Evo 3, among others. Generally, the Sumiko capsules have lower compliances compared to the M&M magnet, right? Well, you don't really get to tell me the information on any of the Sumikos, right? It tells me that it has a lower compliancy than others, right? And here it tells me that I can look up information on Vinyl Engine, right? It's okay to tell me, well, you can look for information here. But now I want to explain to you that there is another way to search for much more specific and much faster information with another artificial intelligence that is very interesting, right? And I'm going to explain now. If you go to Google and search for Perplexity, okay? As I'm writing it, Perplexity, it's going to give you access to, well, it's the link to an artificial intelligence that works as a search engine, okay? We have now entered into Perplexity. Let's close this. And we see that it's talking to us in English. No problem. We're going to say, can you speak to me in Spanish? Of course, I'm here to help you in Spanish. How can I assist you today? Well, we are off to a good start. You are answering me in my language. I'm going to ask you, do you have... Well, directly I would like to know the compliancy of the Sumiko Blue Point, for example, number 2. The compliancy of the Sumiko Blue Point number 2 is 12. Well, it couldn't be more perfect. If you look, apart from the image here, we could look for videos about this, but underneath it says, related questions that you might be interested in. What's the compliance in a phono cartridge? Or how does the compliance affect the sound of the phono cartridge? What's the recommended compliance for the Sumiko Blue Point 2? I mean, let's just pick here. What is the compliancy? For people who don't know some of the things, we can use this to learn, and it's going to answer us. Phono-compliancy refers to springless, like the spring or springiness of the suspension system that's connected to the turntable arm. Here I would put the link that we could go to look for more information on this. What is the inverse measure of stiffness, where a cartridge with high compliancy is suitable for a low-mass tone arm? Well, here we already start to see that the compliance of a cartridge has a lot of importance in relation to the arm. And we know that the calculation of the resonant frequency of the arm goes in relation to the mass of the arm and it goes in relation to the compliance of a cartridge. And many times we buy a cartridge without knowing very well if that cartridge is the most suitable for the arm that we have. And here is one of the things that I have tried to solve with the audiophile assistant or audiophile expert. If we go to the audiophile expert that we were here, we can ask him, for example, if he can help us to calculate or to know if our Sumiko capsule, the one we've been looking for, is suitable to work with a particular arm. For example, I'll say, can you help me calculate the resonant frequency of my phono arm and capsule? We're still not going to tell you which phono arm we have or which capsule. Of course, to calculate, the formula is the following, and as we can see, it is a formula that if we are engineers or mathematicians will not be easy, but for day-to-day, maybe it will cost us a little bit, and if you help us, so much the better. Here it tells us that F is the frequency, pi, m is the effective mass of the arm in grams, including the mass of the capsule, screws, ia, ta, 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 and C is the compliancy. To proceed in the calculation, I will need you to provide me with the effective mass of your arm and the compliancy of your capsule. That is, they need two things. If you don't know either of these, you can look up the mass of the arm in Billing Engine and the capsule as well. It's okay. You don't have to know everything either. But if you can help us in the concrete calculation, it will be good for us. We've seen that the compliancy of the assumption was 12. So we're going to tell you the compliancy is 12. Okay, assume it's 12 times 10 to the minus 6. Right? And once you have the effective mass of the arm in grams, if you already know it, give it to me. Okay, so now we have to put the mass in grams of our arm. We could look it up here, but we are going to use City because it has helped us a lot. And now we are going to ask you, what is the mass of the Phonotorrens TP-15 arm? Well, the Phono TP-15 arm has an effective mass of 16.5 grams. Well, let's tell them 16.5. Let's go to audiophile expert. The arm has a mass of 16.5 grams. And now the system is analyzing the data, it's calculating it. It's going to take maybe a little bit of time, but I'm sure it takes less time than we do, and let's see if it gives us an optimal result. Here, in this case, we have to take into account that this is an artificial intelligence system based on language, and therefore, it is not very good at mathematics itself. Sometimes it makes mistakes by switching from grams to kilograms, etc. The resonant frequency of your phono arm system with a mass of 16.5 and a capsule with a compliancy of 12 is approximately 356. This is wrong. You have miscalculated. It is important to remember that the ideal resonant frequency range for vinyl audio systems is between 8 and 12 Hertz. That is, we would go 20,000 times too high. This calculation is not right. We could calculate it with our calculator and it would work, and we would know for sure the would work, and we would surely know the result. These are things that the FPT chat has to improve, especially in the mathematical calculation. Let's go a little bit further. One of the functionalities that I think can be more useful to those of us who are interested in the hi-fi world is sometimes the historical context of things. So, we want you to explain to us, I don't know, we could ask you to explain to me in a quick summary, the history, and specifically the history of receivers. Marantz is an iconic brand in the hi-fi audio world, founded in New York by Saul Marantz in '53. Initially, Marantz focused on producing high-quality amplifiers, but its catalog quickly expanded to include amplifiers, receivers, and other audio components. During the '70s, Marantz gained worldwide fame. the 2270, 2330, 2385 models are outstanding examples from this era. And here I would continue with the history of Marantz. We could go much deeper and ask for details, as we have seen, of one of their models. Another point that I want us to be able to highlight is related to the artificial vision that GPT has. I have taken 3 photographs of the equipment that I have now in repair for a customer, which is the Sansui 9090. I have taken this picture where you can see these controls. I have made this other photograph where they are going. This is not of the Sansui 9090. It is of the Sansui AU101, phono, auxiliary, and also of the Sansui 9090, the input selector. Imagine that I don't know where I have to connect the turntable. Imagine that I am a newcomer to hi-fi and I don't know where I have to connect the turntable and which controls I have to activate. Well, look at the following. We are going to drag, for example, the picture of the inputs, and we are going to ask you where I have to connect the turntable. We have no idea of where to place it. And we ask him, then now he is analyzing the image. To connect your turntable, you must use the inputs that are labeled as phono. You will see 2 sets of terminals, one labeled left and one labeled right. Left-right corresponding to the left-right channel. Make sure you connect the white wire to the left terminal and the red wire to the right terminal. Also, don't forget to connect the ground wire, which may be a bare wire or have a forked terminal, to the ground screw or ground terminal next to the phono inputs. This is important to minimize electrical noise and hum. He has seen in the picture, now you don't see it here, I'm going to insist. In my picture, there is this connection. In the picture you provided, there is a set of inputs labeled phono, which are the ones intended for the turntable connection. They are identified by being a pair of RCA inputs with one marked left and one marked right. If we look at the picture, which was this one, we see that it was marked phono, and there is the left, and there is the right, and the ground, which also told us that we need to connect the ground here. In other words, the input would have helped us to connect it. And now I say to him, which button to press on the picture I'm giving you? And now I am going to give you this photograph that, as we can see, there is no button that makes reference to the phono. They are all of the tape, the loudness, the mode, and of other things like the Dolby. And therefore, you should not find any button here. Therefore, I pass you this image and the question I asked you in the photo you provided. It shows the controls of an audio receiver or amplifier to listen to your turntable. Once it is connected to the phono inputs, you don't need to press any of these buttons shown in this specific picture. These controls refer to other functions. The 4-channel Dolby is to adjust the Dolby noise reducer. The FM muting is used to mute. It's not saying that none of these are useful. But just know that all of these things have functions, and they are these. We're learning from a simple picture. To listen to music from your turntable, you should look for an input selector or a knob that allows you to select the audio source. It would normally be labeled input selector or function, and would have options like phono, auxiliary, tape. Once you find this control, you should select phono to listen to your turntable. And I'll ask him, is this the one? And I'll pass him the picture that we had, which was this one. That was this one. I will pass him this photograph that there is the selector, and it is this one, the one of phono, to see if he gives us affirmatively the answer. The image is loaded. It is taking a little bit more than, this is because of my internet connection, until the image is loaded. Well, it can't start. I'm going to cancel this. and I'm going to give it to you again, because it is strange that it takes so long. Okay, now yes, this is the image. This is the image. This is what you are thinking now. Yes, this is the control that you need to use. The button that is labeled selector is the one that allows you to select the audio source that you want to hear to listen to your turntable. Simply turn the knob until the indication points to phono, which will cause the receiver to use the phono input, and you can hear the audio from your turntable here would be the selector. Therefore, as we can see, it really is a tool that for novices and for experts can work very well to finish. The last functionality that I want to explain, I don't want to get too long in this video, and I'm already getting long, is the ability of the audiophile expert tool to create images. Because we have seen that it creates, well, it reads the images and it understands them, but it can also create them, right? And as I don't know, I use it for fun. As for fun, I can ask it to make me a specific image. In fact, if you look, this image was made by the artificial intelligence before, right? I said, I want a minimalist Nordic dining room with a large window that lets light in from the side and that illuminates a vintage sound system where there is a pair of speakers, a turntable, a receiver, and some amplifiers. And it created this image so you can see an example. For example, here in the audiophile expert, I'll tell you what, when he creates images, then he goes into creative format and invents the equipment, and we tell him, draw me a vintage amplifier. He's not going to ask you, do you want it Macintosh or do you want it Acoupace? But he's going to create you a vintage amplifier or receiver, but it's not branded. And he's going to do it this way because he'll take from his knowledge the common denominator of what a vintage amplifier is, which is that it has many buttons, that it is made of aluminum, that it has a dial, or that it has a turntable on one side, right? So he invents and is creative when it comes to making this image, right? For example, we will tell him, draw me a vintage amplifier that is very nice and big vintage amplifier, big and beautiful vintage amplifier, right? That has boom emitters on the side, a record player with a red record spinning, and in the background some very big speakers, very big and made of wood. The light is from the sunset and the space is very cozy. We could detail much more, right? But let's leave it here now. He is here for a while, a few seconds. This is what I have told him here, and he is now creating the image. And as we can see, he really invents, right? He invents equipment, and I think it could help us to design equipment. As we can see, this is the image he has created, the amplifier has done, as if it were a guitar or bass amplifier. And this is because we have not specified that we wanted a high-fidelity amplifier, right? With some boom emitters, of course. Guitar amps don't have boom emitters, and that's why he has put the boom emitters apart. With a turntable and some speakers in the wooden background, with a nice lighting. So this is the result, okay? Well, we may like it, more or less. There are vintage equipment that are much nicer than this one. But it's like a way to have fun creating scenarios, scenes of images that interest us. Well, here ends a little this initial review, completely superficial of what could be the use of artificial intelligence in our hobby. I have not specified very well how it works. The Audio Expert is a paid service that charges OpenAI. I do not charge this. I have done it as well as for the love of art. And that whoever wants to use it has to subscribe to OpenAI, right? To ChatGPT. Well, if someone is interested, you can register, and maybe some of you are already registered to ChatGPT, and you can use it to use it. You just have to click on the link that I will put in the description. Nothing. I hope you have been interested in this topic that is in line to introduce new topics in the world of hi-fi and vintage. In the previous video, I talked about hi-fi equipment and our welfare, our health, Does hi-fi have the ability to improve our quality of life, our happiness, our health at the end of the day? And that video, you have it available on this channel, and we are trying new topics week by week. I hope you have been interested in any questions, comments on artificial intelligence. You can use the comments of this channel, and if you want, you can subscribe and give you interested and give the little bell to alert you when we publish things. Thank you very much.
Os podéis suscribir y darle a la campanita para que os avise cuando publicamos cosas. Muchas gracias. Adiós.
Goodbye.